In a distant age along the fertile banks of the Nile, the gods of Egypt do not dwell in hidden realms but walk openly among mortals, towering above them with radiant presence. Their divine nature is unmistakable, marked by their immense height, golden blood, and the terrifying ability to transform into powerful beast-like forms. At the heart of this kingdom stands Osiris, the wise and benevolent ruler of the lush lands nourished by the river. In contrast, his brother Set governs the harsh and lifeless desert, a domain that mirrors the bitterness growing within him. As time passes, Osiris chooses to pass his throne to his son Horus, a noble god deeply devoted to his beloved Hathor. As a symbol of his love and protection, Horus gifts her the Bracelet of 42 Stars, an ancient artifact said to ward off dark forces. On the day of Horus's coronation, a grand celebration fills the city, attended by both gods and mortals alike. Among the crowd are Zaya and Bek, a clever thief who dreams of stealing enough wealth to escape their harsh lives together. The ceremony begins with reverence and offerings, and Osiris prepares to crown his son. But the moment is shattered by the sudden arrival of Set. Cloaked in false intentions, he brings what appears to be a gift, only to reveal his true purpose. With his army surrounding the gathering, Set provokes Osiris into a confrontation, demanding the throne. Refusing to fight his own brother, Osiris meets a tragic end at Set's hands, and the usurper claims the crown. Declaring a cruel new order, Set announces that entry into the afterlife will now require payment, condemning countless mortals to eternal suffering. Enraged by his father's death, Horus challenges Set, and a fierce battle erupts. Their strength is evenly matched, pushing them to transform into their massive divine forms and continue their clash in the skies. But Set's cunning proves decisive, as his followers use reflected sunlight to blind Horus, allowing Set to overpower him and take his eyes, stripping him of his true power. Just as Set prepares to deliver the final blow, Hathor intervenes, offering herself in exchange for Horus's life. Set accepts, sparing Horus but casting him into exile. A year passes, and Egypt falls into despair under Set's tyrannical rule. Many are enslaved, and hope fades as even the gods who opposed him have perished. Hathor survives by pretending loyalty, while Zaya endures life as a slave to Set's architect, Urshu, who oversees the construction of a monumental obelisk. Bek, forced into labor, seizes every chance to reunite with Zaya. One day, she reveals a rare opportunity. Set's vault will soon be accessible, and within it lies one of Horus's stolen eyes. Determined, Bek prepares for the heist, aided by plans Zaya secretly steals. Under the cover of night, Bek infiltrates the vault, navigating deadly traps with agility and instinct. Though the plans fail him at one point, his quick thinking allows him to survive and reach the prize. Grasping the divine eye, he narrowly escapes a pit of scorpions protected by its radiant power. But his triumph is short-lived. When he returns for Zaya, Urshu ambushes them. Bek uses the eye to fight back, and they flee together, only for tragedy to strike as Zaya is fatally shot during their escape. Desperate and grieving, Bek brings her body to the hidden temple where Horus resides. Suspicious and broken, Horus nearly attacks him before hearing his plea. Bek offers the eye in exchange for Zaya's life. Though Horus attempts to help, he cannot reverse death. Summoning Anubis, he watches as Zaya's soul is taken to the underworld. Knowing she cannot afford passage to the afterlife, Bek makes another bargain. He will guide Horus to reclaim his second eye if Horus finds a way to save her soul. Reluctantly, Horus agrees, seeing a chance to reclaim his throne. As they set out, Set learns of the missing eye and begins hunting them. Discovering Zaya's body, he takes her necklace as a token and orders his forces to track Horus. Meanwhile, Horus and Bek journey to a sacred mountain, where Horus seeks the blessing of Ra, the sun god. Without both eyes, Horus cannot fully access his power, but through prayer, he is granted temporary strength to transform once more. Together, they ascend to Ra's celestial vessel, where the god battles the chaos serpent Apophis each day to protect the world. Ra, unwilling to interfere in the conflict between his sons, refuses to take sides. However, he offers Horus a small aid, a flask filled with the sacred waters surrounding his vessel, leaving Horus and Bek to continue their perilous quest alone. Back in Egypt, the last remaining rebel gods hide behind fortified walls, their resistance barely holding together under Set's growing dominance. Taking advantage of their isolation, Set visits his former wife Nephthys and ruthlessly strips her of her wings, weakening yet another potential threat. Meanwhile, aboard the solar vessel, Ra grants Horus a temporary surge of divine power. However, as they descend toward the land, the blessing fades, forcing them into an awkward and uncontrolled landing that leaves both shaken but alive. Their next objective is clear: use the sacred water from Ra's vessel to destroy the desert itself, stripping Set of his greatest source of strength. Before they can proceed, Horus sends Beck to gather drinking water near a nearby waterfall. There, Beck is suddenly ambushed by Set's Minotaur army, led by the fierce Nevis. Just as the situation turns dire, Horus arrives and cuts through the attackers with ease. Yet the victory is deceptive. Mnevis survives by feigning death and seizes the perfect moment to push both Horus and Beck off the waterfall. They narrowly survive the fall thanks to Horus's staff, while Mnevis escapes to report back. Set, unimpressed with failure, executes Mnevis and dispatches his most dangerous hunters to track Horus down. At the same time, Set turns his attention to Hathor, demanding she take him to the underworld using her unique access. She pretends to consider his request, buying time, and secretly uses her powers to manipulate the sand, searching for signs of Horus. When Set discovers her lingering loyalty, he attempts to kill her, but Hathor escapes by opening a portal with her bracelet, barely evading death. Elsewhere, Horus and Beck pause at Osiris's tomb, exhausted from their journey. Their brief rest is cut short as Set's hunters arrive riding massive serpents. In his weakened state, Horus cannot withstand their venom, forcing Beck to devise a risky plan. Acting as bait, Beck lures one serpent closer while Horus hides, waiting for the right moment to strike. Their first attempt fails, leaving Horus's weapon lodged in the beast. Adjusting quickly, Beck repeats the maneuver, giving Horus another opportunity. This time, Horus kills the rider, sending the serpent spiraling off a cliff. As they prepare to face the second serpent, Hathor appears, using her power to reclaim the staff and command the creature to destroy itself. Together, they escape. Horus, however, remains cold toward Hathor, viewing her as a traitor. He refuses to see the sacrifices she made to stay alive under Set's rule. Beck, caught between them, reveals their plan to retrieve Horus's second eye using the pyramid's hidden paths. Hathor warns them of a deadly obstacle. A sphinx guards the pyramid and will kill anyone who fails to answer its riddle. Determined, Horus decides they need the wisdom of Thoth. Their journey to Thoth's temple is tense, filled with arguments between Horus and Hathor. Frustrated, Hathor distances herself from Horus and instead speaks with Beck, learning of the promise Horus made to revive Zaya. She knows such a thing defies natural law, but she remains silent. At the temple, they find it filled with countless copies of Thoth, each identical, reflecting his obsession with knowledge and control. Thoth refuses to accompany them, insisting they bring the riddle to him instead, despite the obvious risk. Beck cleverly manipulates his pride, suggesting the Sphinx would think Thoth afraid of failure. Provoked, Thoth agrees to join them. As they approach the pyramid, Hathor confronts Horus about his false promise to Beck. Horus remains unmoved, believing the lie serves a greater purpose. While waiting for nightfall, Hathor uses her connection to the underworld to allow Beck a brief moment to communicate with Zaya. He sees her soul waiting in line for judgment, unable to afford passage. Their connection is cut short by Anubis, reminding them of the unforgiving rules of death. When darkness falls, they enter the constantly shifting pyramid. Beck takes the lead, navigating through moving structures with agility, eventually reaching a mechanism that halts the entire structure. Together, they advance toward the Sphinx. Thoth initially fails to answer its riddle, triggering its attack. While Horus holds it off, Thoth desperately cycles through answers until he finally solves it, destroying the creature and clearing their path. At the pyramid's core, they prepare to release the sacred water, but a trap is triggered. Horus and Hathor are captured, and Set suddenly appears, effortlessly seizing control. He steals Thoth's brain, stripping him of his intellect, and confronts Beck with Zaya's necklace, revealing that Horus cannot fulfill his promise. Doubt creeps into Beck's mind, and that hesitation proves fatal. Set takes the flask and destroys it, eliminating their only chance to weaken him. With his enemies broken and the pyramid collapsing, Set leaves them to die. But Horus refuses to fall. Breaking free from the trap, he leads the group through the collapsing structure, using the remaining mechanisms to shield them as they narrowly escape with their lives, though now with fewer options and far greater stakes. Outside the collapsing pyramid, Beck finally snaps. He calls Horus out for his lies, realizing that gods, for all their power, treat human lives like disposable tools. Horus has no defense left, only silence. Seeing the damage done, Hathor steps forward and chooses to fix what Horus cannot. She summons Anubis and offers herself in exchange for granting Beck safe passage into the underworld. The deal is accepted without hesitation. Before she is taken, Hathor shares a quiet, emotional goodbye with Horus, leaving behind her bracelet so Beck can survive the dangers ahead. Protected by its magic, Beck enters the underworld, a grim place where souls line up before massive gates. The wealthy pass through easily, while the poor are left to be consumed by darkness. Beck searches desperately until he finds Zaya among them, still waiting. Meanwhile, in the world above, Set grows stronger than ever. He fuses stolen divine powers into his armor, combining Thoth's intellect, Osiris's essence, Horus's eye, and Nephthys's wings, turning himself into something far beyond a god. With this power, Set ascends to the solar vessel to confront Ra. But instead of fear, Ra offers truth. Everything that has happened was a test. Osiris proved himself by relinquishing power, while Set was meant to learn patience and one day inherit the responsibility of defending creation itself. Set rejects this destiny entirely. He refuses a purpose that binds him to endless duty and lashes out in rage. Even Ra's devastating solar force cannot stop him now. Set defeats his father and unleashes Apophis, the ancient chaos serpent, upon the world. Back in the underworld, chaos erupts as Apophis begins tearing through reality itself. Anubis is forced to shut the gates, trapping countless souls, including Zaya. Beck tries to give her the bracelet so she can escape, but she refuses. Instead, she urges him to trust Horus one last time. Reluctantly, Beck returns to the living world, carrying that fragile hope. Nephthys aids them by sending a carriage, bringing Beck and Horus back to the city just as Set begins his final act. Standing atop the great obelisk, armed with Ra's spear, Set commands Apophis to strike the Nile, threatening to erase all life. Desperate, Horus and Beck capture Urshu and force him to grant access inside the obelisk. As they ascend, chaos unfolds. Beck and Urshu struggle in a burning elevator, ending with Beck narrowly escaping while Urshu falls to his death. At the summit, Horus faces Set once more. The battle is brutal, but this time there is strategy behind it. Horus distracts Set while Beck moves in for a surprise attack. Set counters with overwhelming force, but in the struggle, Beck manages to remove Horus's eye from Set's armor. In a critical moment, Beck throws the eye back toward Horus. Yet instead of reclaiming his power, Horus chooses something different. He saves Beck. That choice changes everything. For the first time, Horus understands what truly defines worth. Fully transformed once more, Horus carries Beck to safety before returning to finish the fight. Inside the crumbling obelisk, Horus turns the structure itself into a weapon, bringing it down upon Set. As Set crashes to the ground, weakened at last, Horus ends the battle with Ra's spear, killing the tyrant who once ruled everything. Without hesitation, Horus flies to the solar vessel and returns the spear to Ra. The weapon restores Ra's power instantly, allowing him to confront Apophis once again. Balance is restored, and the gates of the underworld reopen. Returning to Egypt, Horus recovers his lost eye and seeks out Beck, only to find him mortally wounded. The boy who challenged gods and defied fate dies in his arms. He carries Beck's body back to the temple, placing him beside Zaya. Then, something unexpected happens. Ra appears. As a reward for Horus's growth and his willingness to act selflessly, Ra restores both Beck and Zaya to life. Days later, Egypt is reborn, and Horus is finally crowned king. But this time, the rule changes. The worth of a soul is measured by its actions, not its wealth. Beck, once a thief, is named chief advisor, and as a final act, he returns Hathor's bracelet to Horus, who prepares to journey into the underworld once more, not as a prince or a warrior, but as a king ready to bring someone he loves back home. Thanks for watching, like and leave a comment, and most important, subscribe to ScenePhoria for more videos.